Hey, HannahMouse1 here. Welcome to part 3 of my Scratch Virtual Pet tutorial series. Today we're adding a furniture store, a clothes store, and the ability to equip the decorations and clothes that you buy therein. If you missed parts 1 and 2, they're linked in the iCard and in the description down below, but otherwise let's jump right in. As this is not an art tutorial, I've linked a blank version of the project with all of the new art assets and all of the codes from parts 1 and 2, but none of the code from today down below, so that you can just remix that and follow along with me. If you want to learn more about making art in Scratch's vector engine, that will also be linked in the iCard and in the description. Okay, so what we're going to start with is the map sprite. Under this script that creates all of the clones, we are going to duplicate a switch costume 2 block and a create clone of myself block. We're going to change the switch costume 2 to be furniture 1, copy this and drag it in after the it creates clone of the home one, so before the furniture store switch costume block. And then in this other switch costume 2 function, we're going to make it clothes 1 and drag that in before the switch costume to home one, so right at the beginning after we switch the backdrop. So if I show you this now, you can see that we have all of the clones appearing. We need to set the mouse over effects for the 2 new shops. So here we can go to the when I start as a clone script and duplicate the if else function with the costume name contains grocery store condition and change it to be if costume name contains furniture, as that's what the costumes are. So furniture. Like that, and then we can do if touching mouse pointer, switch costume to furniture 2, else switch costume to furniture 1, and then for the other we can do clothes, then switch costume to clothes 2, or switch costume to clothes 1, and we can drag that right in, clean up, and as you can see now the mouse over effects work as intended. Then for the when this sprite is clicked script, we are going to duplicate the if costume name contains grocery store script and change that to be furniture. Set, in this case, we want to broadcast furniture and set open to furniture. And we then need to switch backdrop to furniture store. And in the if costume name contains arcade, we want to change that to clothes. Broadcast. New message, clothes, set open to clothes, and switch the backdrop to clothes store, and then drag that into the empty else function. So now, for instance, it takes you straight to the clothes store, the furniture store if you click the furniture store page. And let's set up the furniture store first, shall we? Okay, so let's go over to the shopkeeper sprite now, so we can set up the furniture store. What we're going to do is duplicate the if open is equal to grocery store if else function and change that to be furniture. In the if portion, we want to switch costume to furniture 1, else switch costume to furniture 2. You can remove the hide block from the pre-existing function and just drag that in. And while we're at it, let's do the same for clothes. So duplicate it, change it to be clothes, clothes 1, clothes 2, drag it into the else function of that. And that will just be set up nice and ready for later. So now what we can do is go to the furniture store sprite, drag in a when green flag is click script and hide. Then when I receive furniture, my blocks, make a block, clone, and make sure that run without screen refresh is selected. You then want to go up here and make a variable for this sprite only called this type. And under the clone script, we can set this type to floor, switch costume to floor 1, and create clone of myself. Duplicate these 3 blocks, change it to be wall and wall 1, then duplicate again, furniture, switch costume to furniture 1. We can add a clone scripter here, and when I start as a clone, show. As you can see, running that, it creates the clothes, the furniture display that we want. Okay, so what we actually need here is a motion block, and we want to, at the start of the clone script, go to 0, 0. Then Just have this show quickly so I can set this correctly. We want to switch costume to arrow 1. Go to 180 -30. Set this type to arrow. And create a clone of myself. Then we can duplicate the last 4 blocks. We can instead switch costume to arrow 2. Go to X135. Remove the set this type block and reattach that. Now the furniture store should set up correctly. One last thing we need to do is go back to the icon sprite. So what we're going to do is scroll down until we find the when I receive grocery store script. Duplicate that and switch it to furniture instead. And while we're at it, we may as well do the same thing for clothes. In the shopkeeper script, by the way, you should probably add a when green flag is clicked and a hide block. I forgot to do that before. But otherwise, if we quickly just check out the furniture store, you can see that this sets up. Actually, I might change the second arrow to be a bit closer to the first one. So let's try 145. Pretty good. And under the when I start as a clone script, we want to add a forever loop with the statement if not open equals furniture in the condition space. And in that, we want to delete this clone. So if we see this, we go to the furniture store and exit, and everything deletes and appears as needed. So now what we're going to do is make a new list, and we're going to call it mouse over sensor. Spell that correctly. And at the start of the clone script, we're going to delete all of mouse over sensor. In the when I start as a clone script, we're going to add in an if else function with the condition being if touching mouse pointer. Then we're going to do if not mouse over sensor contains this type, add this type to mouse over sensor. Else, if mouse over sensor contains this type, delete one of mouse over sensor, but replace the one with item tag of this type in mouse over sensor, and just drag that in there. As you can see, it adds the correct ones to the mouse over sensor depending on where your mouse is. Then what we want to do is add an if this type is equal to furniture block else function, then add an if else function into that. If mouse over sensor contains this type, then set mouse over to this type, else if mouse over is equal to this type, set mouse over to none, drag that in, then duplicate it and do if this type is equal to wall, and then add an and operator, and not mouse over sensor contains furniture. Drag that into one side, then move this condition into the other and drag that back into there. Add that into the else section. And then finally, we just want to duplicate this inner portion, drag in an or function, set this to be wall, put that into this, so it's not mouse over sensor contains furniture or wall, and just drag that in. Have a look at this time. If we just quickly have a check that the mouse over is being set correctly, as you can see it is. We need one last if else function. If mouse over is equal to this type, then set brightness effect to 10, else set it to 0. As you can see, now the object highlights. And actually you want to drag in an if function here with this type being floor, because I forgot we don't want this to apply to the arrows as well. And you can just encompass this final if else function into that. So now we're going to make another new list, which we'll call unlocked. And then when the green flag is clicked, we want to delete all of unlocked, then repeat 20 times, add 0 to unlocked. Basically what we're going to use this for is to see all the unlockables in the game. If it's 0, then it's still locked. If it's 1, then it will be unlocked. So we can have that. And what we want to do is drag in a when this sprite is clicked script, and then an if else function. If this type is equal to wall, then we want if, then we need an and. So we want if money is greater than 499, and item displayed of unlocked is equal to 0. We want to then change money by -500 and replace item displayed of unlocked with 1. We can duplicate that and change it from wall to floor. For this I'm going to change the cost to be 249, and anywhere we have displayed I'm going to be displayed plus 5. Then I am going to take another if, duplicate again and change it to furniture and change it to be 749 and change the plus 5s to be plus 10s. Oh, and here in the if equal to floor section we want to change money by 250, and in the furniture one we want it to be change money by -750. Then in the final else function we want it to be if costume name, so if you get the costume name block from the looks tab and be arrow 1, then we need another if else function in the if portion of that, with it being if displayed is equal to 5, then set displayed to 1, else change displayed by 1. Else we can duplicate this function and be if displayed is equal to 1, set displayed to 5, else change displayed by -1. Drag that in. And at the start of the clone script we also want to set displayed to 1. Under the one I start as a clone script, at the start of the if this type is equal to furniture section, switch costume to join furniture displayed. Just duplicate that and drag that in. Then under the if this type is equal to wall, do wall displayed. And for floor, 10 points for guessing, we're doing join floor displayed. You can see you can now cycle through the different options. We also want some UI to display the different costs of the items. So if we go to the UI sprite, and if we duplicate this when I receive grocery store script and change it to furniture, then what we can do is go to this bit here, which is if open is equal to grocery store, duplicate that, and then do if open is equal to furniture, and remove everything from the else function. We can just drag the existing stuff into there and move that in. And then what we want to do is get an if else function, do if mouse over is equal to wall, then we can move the right input into there and move the set x2 block to be underneath and set it to be right input 500. Else, if mouse over is equal to floor, set it to 250. Else, if mouse over is equal to furniture, set it to be 750. Then we want to drag in an if else function and do if equals 0. Then for the other side of that we need if item of unlocked, let's do item displayed of unlocked equals 0, move the right 500 input into there and drag that back in, else hide. We can duplicate that, move the 250 into there, and we want this to be if displayed plus 5. This way it only displays the cost if you haven't unlocked it yet. And we can do the same with furniture, but for 10, drag the right input in, move that into the space. Okay, so what we're also going to do in the UI sprite is make a new variable. We're going to call it this open for this sprite only. And then when I start as a clone, find the script that deletes this clone. At the start of that, we want to set this open to open. And then remove the one of these options in the all function, so we only have open is equal to. If not, open is equal to this open, delete this clone. Okay, so I realised the small mistake on my part. We can't actually use displayed to show the page that we're on, because displayed is used in displaying how much money, like how much each item costs. So what we're going to do is make a new variable. Let's call it page, shall we? Call it page. I can actually spell like so. Then under UI, where we have this bit, change anywhere it says display, like item displayed of unlocked, the item page of unlocked, page plus 5 and page plus 10. Now if we go back to the furniture store sprite at the start of the clone script, have it set page to 1 instead of displayed. Under the one when the sprite is clicked script, anywhere we have displayed, change it to page, both in where the arrows change which page we are on, like so, as well as anywhere we have like displayed or unlocked should be page of unlocked, page plus 5, page plus 10. Now if we go to the when I started a clone script, well, any of the switch costume blocks should also be join whatever it is page instead of displayed. Now if we you can see that the cost now displayed correctly. It's in a pretty bad place though, so I think I'm going to shift it to be down here slightly. So under the when I receive furniture, let's set the let's try negative 150. That's probably about right. So then we can do negative 170. Let's move it up slightly to 145. That's probably about right. And what I'm going to do is, if we go to looks, going to get a set brightness block to negative 50, drag that in at the beginning, and duplicate it, and then do one when we switch costume to 1, and then before coin we can just do that to 0. As you can see, that now is a lot more visible and in a much better place, and you can still cycle through all of those. So that is basically all that for the furniture store, with the exception of a few sound effects. Okay, so back in the furniture store sprite, if you go to the when the sprite is clicked script, sorry, we want to do start sound key in all three of these, just basically anywhere we change money, we want to start sound key. And under the other section, we just want, like, right before the if costume name is equal to arrow bracket, we can just start sound pop in there. And we are now completely done with the furniture store. Let's now set up the clothes store, shall we? This is what it looks like so far. For this one, what I want to do is go to the shopkeeper's sprite, and what I'm going to do is move this go to block into the forever loop, and then in the clothes section I'm going to change it so that it's no longer at that position. I want it to be at, let's try x negative 30. No, let's go negative 100. Let's move it right over and set the y to be negative 130, so do that right? No, maybe negative 120. I'm also going to go to the map icon sprite, and under the when the sprite is clicked script, at the very start, let's just set mouse over to none, just to make sure that resets when you leave an area. So what we then want to do for the clothes store sprite is we want to drag in a when green flag is clicked script and hide. Then when I receive clothes, make a block. This is very similar to how we set up the furniture store. Clone, run without screen refresh. Then what we want to do is switch costume to clothes 1. We want to go to, add that switch costume to clothes 1 block. Go to 0 negative 51. 0 negative 50, sorry, it makes more sense. Then create clone of myself. We also want to, at the beginning of this, we want to set page to 1. And you also want to make a variable for this sprite only, this type. Let's set this type to body. Then we can duplicate that, remove the go to block, switch costume to head, and then head. Actually, this all needs to be under clone, not the when I receive clothes script, sorry. We can just attach a clothes one to the clone to the clothes one instead. And then when I start as a clone, looks show. And make sure you don't have this clone script in there, that shouldn't be in there. Don't know why I added that. So now you can see them. And let's actually, this is slightly off centered. So let's just change that to be -5 instead of 0 on the X value. See if that looks a bit better. Yeah, that looks much better. Okay, so then we want to set this type to arrow. Switch costume to arrow 1. We need a go to block with it being -25, 40. I'm going to put that in underneath there. Then duplicate these last 3 blocks. So the go to switch costume, create clone myself. And let's switch arrow 2 and change it from -25 to +25. And actually we want the costumes to be the other way around. So arrow 2 first, then arrow 1. So now the clothes store sets up appropriately. And actually let's move these arrows slightly close together. So just try -15 and +15 instead of the 25s. Yeah, that looks a lot better. When we start under the define clone script, we also want to delete all of mouse over sensor. And then add a forever loop to the when I start as a clone script. Add an if function into that. If not open is equal to clothes. Then delete this clone. Then we want an if else function, if touching mouse pointer. Then we want to if not mouse over sensor contains this type, add this type to mouse over sensor, else if mouse over sensor contains this type, delete item tag of this type in mouse over sensor of mouse over sensor. And I'm going to put all of this into an if not this type equals arrow. Then what we can do is add an if else function after the if touching mouse pointer one. If this type is equal to head, then we need an if else function. If mouse over sensor contains this type, set mouse over to this type, else if mouse over is equal to this type, set mouse over to none. Else we could duplicate this section, this inner section, drag that in. We need an AND operator, drag the mouse over sensor contains this type into one side, and then a NOT operator to the other, and NOT mouse over sensor contains head. Then we want another if else function. If mouse over is equal to this type, then set brightness effect to 10, else set brightness effect to 0. We can drag that in to that. So if we hide all of these things that we don't need open right now, that sets, now you can see that highlights as we want it to. What we're going to do is drag in a switch costume to block, join, head, page, and do the same for, should be hat page, not head. And then for this should be clothes page. If this type is equal to head, do the one with the hat, else do the one with the clothes. Then we can do when this sprite is clicked event block. Then we can do duplicate this and remove all the contents from inside of it and anything after it. So we have this type is equal to head. We need an if function with an AND operator. So if money is greater than 99 and item page plus 15 of unlocked is equal to 0, replace item page plus 15 of unlocked with 1 and change money by negative 100. So we could duplicate this if else statement and it be body. I'm going to change it to be 199, change that to be negative 200, and that could be 20 and 20. Drag that back in, and I realize we need to change something in the furniture store sprite. So if we just go back up to the find the when green flag is clicked script, and then where it repeats 20 in the loop, we actually want to be 25. I forgot that we needed 2 sets for the clothes. Then we need another if else function. If costume name equals arrow 1. But if you just go back to the furniture. But while we're in the furniture store sprite, if we go down to the when this sprite is clicked script, we can copy this if costume name is equal to arrow 1 if else function and just drag that into the clothes store sprite and drag that into the else portion as so, and that immediately will just set that up. And as you can see, you can now cycle through all of the different clothing options. We also want to go to the UI sprite, duplicate the when I receive grocery store script and have it be clothes. And then if we go down to the when I start as a clone script, we could duplicate the if open is equal to furniture section and change it to be clothes. Mouse over equals head. We want it to be page plus 15 of unlocked. And right input 100. Else we can remove this if else function and replace it with just a standard. Just like remove the one with the else function, just so it's just the mouse over is equal to furniture one, and remove everything for else function. And we want this to be plus 20 and 200. Then we can move everything in the after that into there, drag that in, scroll down, that should be as intended. I also realized something we forgot to do earlier. If we go to the costume name is equal to cheese section, then we need an if else function. If open is equal to furniture. I realized we just forgot to make it so that it displays the correct item name. What we want is it to switch to join mouse over page. So we can move the show block to be after that and put it so that the new one is in the if portion. Then we need another, just duplicate that and switch it to be clothes in the condition. Remove everything from that, move the show block to be after it, and move the existing if else function into the else portion. Then we need a if mouse over equals head, switch costume to join hat and page, else switch costume. Then we want an if function. If mouse over is equal to body, switch costume to outfit page, drag that in and then drag that into the space. And just because it's a bit in the way, what we're going to do is go up to where we create the clones under the when I receive clothes script and change it to be Y75 and 55. Let's see if that works a bit better. Wrong one. Still want to go higher. We want to do let's try 100 and after you just set brightness back to 0 block, and we can just put this in at the end of the when I receive furniture script. That should be enough to make sure that that works as intended. Yep, and that seems to be fine, but although the money isn't displaying for the body, so let's just go down to that. Oh right, where it says mouse over is equal to furniture, we do need to change it to be body, obviously. That was my bad. And I just need to make sure we run this script here, just to make sure that the that displays correctly. So now everything for that is working. We just need to add in the sound effects. So if you just go to the when this sprite is click script under the clothes store sprite, it's just the same as last time. So in the two places we change the money, start sound key, and right before the if costume is equal to arrow 1, we can just start sound pop. And that's all that we need for that. But let's set it up so that you can actually use these things we bought. So go to the icon sprite, and under the when I receive message 1 forever with the open is equal to home conditions, we're going to drag in a repeat loop and repeat 3 times. Then we're going to remove all of this and remove the switch costume 2 block. So we just have repeat 3 times, change X by 55 and create clone of myself, and then in the place of the switch costume block, we're just going to do a next costume block and just drag that in. So if I show you now, we have all of that. And what we should actually do is make a block, clone, and run without screen refresh to make sure that this all occurs in a single frame. So let's just remove all of that, like everything between the 2 blocks, and then just have it clone in there. As you can see now, it all appears at once, which is what we want. So now what we can do is when this sprite is clicked, if costume number is equal to 3, which is the decorate option, you set open to deco and broadcast deco. And what we should actually do is get an if else function, drag that into there, so the existing one in there, duplicate the image. It's just a bit neater if you have it in if else function instead of if functions, because you don't want the same thing to be running multiple things. Then if costume number is equal to 4 in the else portion, set open to dress and broadcast dress. Drag that in and attach that back to the end. So if we go back to pet, then we can duplicate the open is equal to food section, do deco and deco in the open is equal to sections, duplicate it again and do dress and dress. Now the mouse stays there. Go back to icons. We can go up to the let's find the one where it creates after wait until open is equal to food, duplicate that, change both opens to be deco and deco, then switch costume to, we want to do walls, drag that in after the create clone of myself block, then repeat 3 times, change X by 55, create clone of myself, and then next costume, drag that in. As you can see now we have the 3 different options. Under the when this sprite is clicked script, where we have open is equal to food, we can drag in an OR operator, duplicate that so we have 3 OR spaces. So we want it to be open is equal to food, or open is equal to deco, or open is equal to dress. Under the set open to deco bit, under the if costume number is equal to 3 section, we should also set page to wall. And what I also want to do is move all of these icons up slightly. So let's change the Y to 130. See if that looks good. This will be higher, so let's try 150. There we go, 150 works well. And then we need to find where we set the size effect, which is here. Then we need an if function. If. Then we need an and. If open is equal to deco and page is equal to costume name, change size by 10. That just makes it so that the selected one is slightly higher, slightly larger. Okay, actually what I want to do is under the when this right click script, make sure that all of the if costume number is equal to 1 section is also in the if portion of an if else function, as so. What I'm going to do now is move this costume number is equal to 4-bit also into an if else function, then drag another if else function into that. I want it to be if open is equal to deco, then set page to costume name. Just drag that in. Now we want to set it up so that you can actually select the different walls. So what I want to do now is go back to the script that creates these clones under deco. Then we want to duplicate all of that. Set the go-to block to have Y98 and switch costume to artist. Then drag in the repeat 3 times loop, remove all of that, and shift it around so that the change X by block comes after the create clone of myself block and repeat 5 times. Just drag that in after there. See that appearing? And again, I'm going to make a custom block for this. So let's call it clone deco. Run with that screen refresh, move all of that in there. Just basically anytime we're cloning with a repeat loop, it should be done with a custom block. Then back to the when the sprite is clicked script, where we have the set page to costume name, we need actually that to be in the if portion of an if else function, with the condition being if costume number is less than 10. We also want to make it so that the icons for the different options black out if you haven't unlocked it yet. So under the when I start as a clone script, what I want to do is put this into an if else function and remove one side of this function. So what I want to do is if costume number is less than 10, then we could put the change size by into an if function and move this page is equal to costume number 1 into there. Else, what I want to do is get an if else function. If page is equal to wall, then we need another if function. If item page of unlocked, if item costume number minus 9 of unlocked is equal to 0, and this should actually be an if else function, not an if function, sorry, then set brightness effect to -10, else set brightness effect to 0. And this should be page, not mouse over, sorry. We can duplicate that and do floor and change that from -9 to -4. Then do page is equal to furniture. If costume number +1 of unlocked is equal to 0, and then just drag that in. So hypothetically speaking, let's just tweak some values in the unlocked list. So let's say you unlock the first wall. You can see it brightens up slightly. Let's actually make this slightly darker. So let's go -25 instead of -10 to really like emphasize the difference. That looks a lot better, and that allows you to see which ones you've unlocked at a glance. But let's go back up to here. So so let's just duplicate all of the from page, if page is equal to wall section, and just drag that up. Then what we can do is drag in an if function and move the condition if costume number -9 is equal to 0, remove everything else and just drag that in. Then what we want to do is actually create a list to say selected. Then make a drag, one green flag is clicked, delete all of selected, then repeat 5 times, add 1 to selected. So if we go back down to the one the sprite is clicked script, in this section here that we just added, we can replace item 1 of selected with costume number -9. Then we can duplicate this and change it to be -4 in the condition, leave it as -9 in the actual block though, and then do the same for the furniture, so it should be +1 in the condition. And then just drag that into this else function here. Then if we go to the backdrops, then what we'll do is when I receive message 1, add a forever loop to that. If, then get a contains operator, if backdrop name contains home. Then we want to drag in a switch backdrop to join home, then a minus operator into one side, and the other side -1, then do item 1 of selected. So Sorry, some things I forgot to do. Back in the icon sprite, under the when the sprite is clicked script, where we set the different options. First off, this should always be equal to 1, not equal to 0. And under the page is equal to floor, we should be replacing item 2 if selected. And under furniture, we should be replacing item 3. So hypothetically, say we've unlocked the third wall. We can then... So hypothetically speaking, say you've unlocked option 3, you can select it and switch to that backdrop. So now we need to set it up so you can also change the floors and furniture. So if you go to the room sprite, when green flag is clicked, hide. Then what we want to do is, when I receive message 1, make a block, clone, run without screen refresh. Under this you want to go to back layer, switch costume to floor 1, and make a variable for this sprite only, this type, set this type to floor, create clone of myself, and duplicate all of that, set furniture 1, type to furniture, create clone of myself, and at the start of this let's just make sure we go to x 0 y 0, then attach it, then make this happen when we receive message 1. Then when I start as a clone forever, if, then we need OR, and then put an OR operator into each side, so we have 4 conditions. So if open is equal to home, or food, or deco, or dress, then show, else hide. In the if portion we also want an if else function. If this type is equal to floor, switch costume to join floor -1 item 2 of selected, and we actually want this in the else portion of an if else function, with the if condition, with the condition being if is equal to 1, if item 2 of selected is equal to 1, then hide. I'll duplicate this if else function, change all the selecteds to be 3, and when we have floor, change it to be furniture. One small error I realised I made under icons. If we go to the when this sprite is clicked script, instead of setting it to costume number -9, set it to be costume number -8 on all of these 3 options. As you can see now, everything sets correctly. And that's actually all that we need for setting up the decoration options. So now we can do the same for clothes. Let's take the clone deco script and make a new custom block called clone dress. Run without screen refresh. Duplicate everything that we have under clone deco and attach that. Except when we switch costume to wall, we want to switch costume to hat and only repeat twice. So now what we need to do is duplicate this receive message 1 block, wait until open is equal to dress, clone dress, and then wait until not open is equal to dress. As you can see now, we have this working as, like, appearing as we need it to. So now let's go down to the when I start as a clone script. Duplicate the if open is equal to deco section and change it to be open is equal to dress. Remove everything after it. and then just drag that in to there. Then what we can do is remove this if page is equal to wall section and just drag back in the page is equal to floor section. Change it to be hat and outfit. And where it says costume number -4, what we want is for it to be costume number +6. And instead of costume number +1, we want it to be costume number +11. And when we set open to dress under the when the sprite is click script, we also want to set page to hat under there. Then what we want also here is to duplicate the if open is equal to deco section of this and change the open is equal to dress. Then what we want to do is remove the if page is equal to wall and drag back in the page is equal to floor one. Set it to be hat or outfit. Change it to be item 4 of selected and item 5 of selected. And then again we want to change the +1 to a +11 and the -4 to a +6. Then we can just drag that back in. Then go back to the pet sprite. What we want to do is, when I start as a clone forever, then what we want to do is put that into an if function. If costume name is equal to body1, switch costume 2, join body, item 4 of selected. And then what we also want to do is duplicate a switch costume 2 block, do hat 1, and then anywhere where we're creating the clones, drag that in right at the end. So the 4 places that we create, do that. Then what we want to do is duplicate this, do hat 1. Then what we want to do is an if else function. If item 5 of selected is equal to 1, looks hide, else show, and switch costume to hat, item 5 of selected, -1. Just add that to the end of that. So we go to dress up. Let's say we've unlocked, scroll down to we can now dress up the character. And one last thing that I completely forgot to do earlier, go back to the UI sprite and go to the when I started a clone script. What we're going to do is go to the if else function with if open is equal to close and just duplicate that. What we want to do is remove this write input function from basically all the write input functions we want to get rid of, like so, and also remove the set x2 block, and then you can remove this if open is equal to grocery store part from the else section. We can also remove this set x2 block. Then in any of the empty if functions we can just drag in a show. As so. Including this final else function down here. Then remove the show block from the if costume name is equal to coin section and just drag that in place. That will make sure that the coin also hides when you've purchased any of the things that you can purchase. And that's all that we will be doing today, so apart from that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you did, it lets me know that this is something I want to see more of. Join the Discord link down below, and I'll see you next week with another video. Bye!